So essentially what he said for the federal budget, it reminds me a lot of Justin Trudeau in 2015 when he came out and said there'd just be these very small, very itty-bitty little deficits. And when in fact we know that Justin Trudeau doubled the size of Canada's debt and year after year posted massive inflationary deficits that did things like increase the cost of groceries, make life unaffordable, make it so that people can't afford rent. I watched him on Atlantic Canadian TV make this very weird quip about not needing, that the host would never have to use steel. And so it was okay to put carbon tax, an increased carbon tax on steel producers. You know, a combination of Mark Carney with American tariffs would ruin the Canadian economy because he does not have a plan to make our country more resilient and face it. His entire lifetime of policies have been putting forward things that have actually put Canada in this position of weakness right now. The Liberals are holding their only leadership debates today and tomorrow. And frankly, I think that they are trying to sneakily dupe Canadians into forgetting their record of the last 4 years. Things like doubling housing costs, doubling our national debt, making our economy weak, increasing crime, and juicing the fentanyl crisis, putting our country at risk of economic devastation in light of the threat of American tariffs. And so tonight, it seems to me like the Liberal Party is about to, or attempting to, coronate Mark Carney, an unelected man who essentially has the same record as Justin Trudeau because he has been advising Justin Trudeau in senior economic roles for many years. Many of these policies that have put Canada into such a dire strait, Mark Carney had a direct hand in creating. So tonight, as the Liberals have literally their only debates, the only next couple of times before Mark Carney could be coronated as Prime Minister, exposure to the Canadian public, Mark Carney must come clean on a few things. First of all, in the last 2 weeks, we've seen Mark Carney sneakily imposing a shadow carbon tax. I watched him on Atlantic Canadian TV make this very weird quip about not needing, the host would never have to use steel. And so it was okay to put carbon tax, an increased carbon tax on steel producers. So he needs to come clean on this sneaky imposition of a shadow carbon tax. He's also been sneakily skirting ethics rules. This is a man who has sat on some of the world's largest corporations, some of the most senior boards in the world, and he has yet to disclose any potential conflicts of interest that he might have, as well as financial assets that might create conflicts of interest for him as Prime Minister. He could actually become Prime Minister and be Prime Minister for 4 months without disclosing any of those potential conflicts of interest, and that's just wrong. That's a very sneaky move on his part. And he's also been sneakily speaking on both sides of his mouth over the last few weeks. He says one thing in English and another thing in French, particularly on the issue of pipelines. Conservatives have been very clear in both English and in French that we will build a pipeline. We will ensure that there is a pipeline built from west to east. But Mark Carney needs to come clean about his sneaky double-sided words on that matter. He's also been sneaky about saying he would use emergency powers, and he needs to come clean about what that means. And I'll also say this, this sneaky accounting trick that he's talked about, it's a scam. So essentially what he said for the federal budget, it reminds me a lot of Justin Trudeau in 2015 when he came out and said there'd just be these very small, very itty-bitty little deficits. And when in fact we know that Justin Trudeau doubled the size of Canada's debt and year after year posted massive inflationary deficits that did things like increase the cost of groceries, make life unaffordable, make it so that people can't afford rent. And again, Mark Carney has been part of the architect team of those policies, and now he's saying that this accounting trick, this scam that he's providing, he's saying that he's going to put a bunch of the deficit spending on one credit card, and all of the other deficit spending on another credit card that he holds behind his back. And he needs to come clean about being sneaky on that front too. You know, Conservatives on that front have been very clear. We need to fix the budget so that we can stop inflationary spending. This is why we've got policies like a dollar for dollar spending rule. But tonight, Mark Carney, again, he's on a path, an imminent path to coronation on behalf of the Carney-Trudeau cabal. So he needs to stop being sneaky, explain some of his contradictory remarks that he's made over the last few weeks and contradictory policies that he has, and just basically come clean with Canadians, because we feel he's just like Justin.
Would a Conservative government cancel the just announced high-speed rail project linking Toronto to Quebec City?
You know, the reality is that the Liberal Party of Canada has built virtually nothing for Canadians. I think about, you know, you're talking about high-speed rail. I think about the rail project in my community that the Conservative government committed money for that is nowhere. So, you know, I think that the bigger question, this is a great question for Mark Carney, is does he have the capacity to, you know, reverse a decade of ineptitude which has left Canadians without the infrastructure they need, be it mass transit. I mean, how many people have been stuck in Canadian airports across this country? You know, the reality is that the Liberals do not have the capacity to build anything, and Conservatives have put forward, you know, I think a lot of very smart policy that would fix the budget and would, you know, stop just the ineptitude of the Liberal cabinet that we've seen over the last 10 years.
How concerned are you about the diminishing lead in the polls for the Conservatives?
I think that what I hear when I'm out canvassing people in my community is a lot of distrust with the Liberal government. And I also think, frankly, that the numbers that I've seen are numbers that Stephen Harper won a majority government with. And I think that the plans that Conservative Party leader Pierre Poilievre have put out, not just in recent weeks, but over the last year, to axe a tax, fix the budget, stop the crime, and build the homes, they resonate with Canadians because those are the issues that people are facing right now. So I am, you know, very confident that after the Liberals come out of hiding, we should be in Parliament right now. They're in hiding, right? They prorogued Parliament because they lost the trust of Canadians and didn't want to be subject to scrutiny. That, you know, when we are in an election campaign, you will see that message, that plan that our leader's been consistent about resonate with Canadians. But, you know, I think that, again, these are questions that Mark Carney should be answering right now too, right? And this is why we're out today saying that on some of these key issues, again, the Liberals are just trying to dupe Canadians into forgetting their record of the last 10 years. We will not allow Canadians to do that. Frankly, it doesn't take a lot of work because Canadians are living with the results of those policies. And again, I just think that the plans that we've put forward are resonating with Canadians because they're compassionate and they strike to the heart of things like affordability for groceries.
Last question. How much of a threat does Mark Carney pose to a Conservative victory?
I think the question is, how much of a question does Mark Carney pose to average Canadians? You know, no, but that is the question that I think people need to be asking, given how sneaky he's been. For me, as a representative who has been locked out of Parliament, I am literally locked out of Parliament right now because of the Liberal government. And I also have to reemphasize something here. Mark Carney has been at the helm of a lot of the financial and economic decisions that have been made by the Liberal government over the last several years. And, you know, there was a great article, I think it was in the Toronto Sun today, talking about how, you know, a combination of Mark Carney with American tariffs would ruin the Canadian economy because he does not have a plan to make our country more resilient in face. His entire lifetime of policies have been putting forward things that have actually put Canada in this position of weakness right now. So, you know, again, I think that tonight, you know, Mark Carney needs to come clean on a bunch of these issues. And I do think that Mark Carney poses a giant challenge for Canadians and a giant threat to Canadians. Thank you.